Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Wendy Wiles. I am your Field Marketing Manager for WatchGuard West and Team Canada. Before we get started today, just want to go through a quick couple of housekeeping items and then talk about the fun prizes that we mentioned in the invitation. So today, everyone is in listen-only mode. As normal, but we do encourage you to submit questions and comments. You can leave those in the question platform or in the chat platform. I'll be moderating those during the webinar. If time allows, we will definitely have a live Q&A session at the end. Don't worry if we're not able to get to your question. We will follow up with everyone's questions and comments just following the webinar. And lastly, we do have a QR code on one of the final slides. That is a link to our feedback survey. So this is your chance to influence our future content. It's 4 quick questions. It's less than a minute to complete. Many thanks in advance for participating. And we have some great draw prizes today. So we've got a Frigidaire mini fridge. We have a Rocketbook Smart Notebook and the latest edition of WatchGuard security socks. So 3 lucky winners will be drawn for that. So definitely be sure to stay tuned till the very end of the webinar. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our speaker today. Russell Lindsay is our WatchGuard sales engineer for the Southwest team. And he's also a previous WatchGuard 1 Gold partner and certified trainer for 15+ years. So we're really in for a treat today. Russell, without further ado, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thank you, Wendy, and welcome to another edition of our FireBytes. As Wendy said, my name is Russell Lindsay. I'm the new SE for the Southwest here at WatchGuard. As she said, I came from a partner in the Salt Lake area. I've been working on firewalls for the past 15 years, installing and supporting those. And I'm excited about this new ability to manage the firewalls through WatchGuard Cloud. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is management of the firewalls inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So we'll take a look here at our agenda real quickly. We're going to just talk about what it takes to get ready for managing the Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud. We're going to look at upcoming features that will be added in, unsupported features. We're going to take a look at how you get started at managing your Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud. And then we'll do an interface demo so that you can get a look at what the interface looks like. And so in order to get started with managing your Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud, the first thing that you want to make sure and understand is the best use of managing the Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud. And so it's best used for those Fireboxes that you're protecting clients with using the content scanning, network blocking, and content filtering security services. It also, being able to manage the Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud enables you to simply set up your devices and configure security and manage network access across multiple Fireboxes using templates. And we'll look at that when we get into the demo section. The management of the Firebox inside of WatchGuard Cloud also allows us to define our networks. We can define multiple different types using either the multi-WAN links, SD-WAN. We can also do dynamic and static NAT as well as VLANs. So there's a lot of flexibility in what we can do from a networking perspective. We can also do branch off as VPNs, just the same as we could with the locally managed firewalls. We can also do remote user VPNs using Ike v2 currently. We'll talk about that here in a second. And you can set up authentication of users either using the local Firebox database, Radius, or Active Directory. So really the requirements for us to get started in managing our Fireboxes in WatchGuard Cloud are the first main requirement is the Firebox needs to be on fireware 12.5.4 or higher. That will allow us to get it into WatchGuard Cloud and be able to manage it. The second thing is the Firebox needs to be in a factory default state. And we also do not currently have a migration path to migrate an existing local managed Firebox into WatchGuard Cloud. And so those are a couple things that are important really to keep in mind. If you have Fireboxes you're wanting to migrate into WatchGuard Cloud that are currently locally managed, the current path would be to factory reset the box and add it into WatchGuard Cloud for management, and then build the config inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So that may be a little daunting or not possible currently, but as you do upgrades, that's an opportunity for you to move the config and the Firebox into WatchGuard Cloud, or if you're starting with a new Firebox, starting it in WatchGuard Cloud for management is ideal. So what's the cost of managing the Firebox in WatchGuard Cloud? It is nothing. When you have a total security suite or a basic security suite on the firewall, you also have a license that's included that allows you to have the Firebox be added into WatchGuard Cloud. So just getting the Firebox, getting the basic or total security suite and adding that into and that gives you the ability to add the firewall into WatchGuard Cloud. So let's quickly talk about some of the upcoming features and some of the features that are going to be unsupported inside of management of the firewall inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So features that are going to be upcoming are being able to manage the Firebox V and Firebox Cloud devices inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So Firebox V is our virtual firewall that runs in an ESX or a Hyper-V environment, and the Firebox Cloud is the virtual firewall that runs inside of Azure or AWS. And so those will be able to be managed in WatchGuard Cloud shortly. The ability to add a logging to a dimension server and syslog will be added shortly. This is one that was really important to us, was being able to see configuration differences, and that one's going to be pretty soon as well. The ability to do dynamic DNS, single sign-on, spam blocker, certificate management are all coming, as well as the ability to have an SSL VPN for client connectivity. Currently, as I mentioned before, the Ike v2 is the current way for us to do client VPN inside of WatchGuard Cloud. The SSL VPN functionality will be here very soon as well. And the ability to manage an active passive firewall fire cluster is going to be available. So all of these features should be added by the end of the year timeframe. So look for those as we move forward. Some of the features that are going to be unsupported are some of the legacy features that are going to be removed from the locally managed firewall, such as data loss prevention and mobile security. There's no support inside of WatchGuard Cloud for older cryptography and and the VPN standards such as IPv1 and L2TP. We also don't plan to add the ability to do proxy actions as we can on the local firewalls, locally managed firewalls today, such as being able to tweak the settings inside of the HTTP proxy, for example. So there's no plans to expose that inside of WatchGuard Cloud at this time. Other features that are not going to be there are the ability to support SIP and H323 application layer gateways. The ability to use a cloud managed firewall as a gateway wireless controller will not be supported. And the ability to configure multicast routing settings for either networking or inside of the branch office VPNs is not going to be a supported feature as well. So how can we get started on getting getting a Firebox into WatchGuard Cloud for management? So the first thing that we need to do is go and activate the firewall inside of your WatchGuard portal. Once that's done, you know, as you do that, you'll activate your subscription, either the total security or basic security suite, and then having administrative access to the Firebox. So those are really the beginning points. And I've got a few slides here that we're going to go through really quickly, just to kind of show you what you're going to see inside of the WatchGuard portal. And then we'll jump into the interface and take a look at the actual interface here. So to add a device, depending on whether you're a WatchGuard partner or an end user, the beginning point is just a little bit different. For partners, you're going to log into your Partner Center account and switch over to the Support Center. And once you're in the Support Center, you'll go to the My WatchGuard section and drop down and select WatchGuard Cloud. Once you do that, you will then click on the inventory section there at the top of the screen of the browser, and then you'll go down to unallocated devices underneath the firewall section, and you will select the firewall that you want to add to WatchGuard Cloud for management. If you're a end user, you're going to log into your WatchGuard Cloud account. You're going to click on Configure and then Devices, and you'll get a box that pops up where you can then add the device that you've activated inside of WatchGuard Cloud. And then from this point on, it's basically the same for both partners and WatchGuard end users. You'll click on in the config section on the device that you're trying to add. You'll click the little cloud icon over on the right hand side there, over here, and then you'll add the device in here. Once you do that, you're going to get an option of whether you want to manage to cloud manage the firewall, or if you want to do cloud reporting with local management. And on the last FireBytes, Johan talked about the cloud reporting. Here we're going to select the cloud managed option, and we'll hit next there. You'll add a device name for the firewall. Select your time zone, hit next on that to go to the next screen. You'll select how you're going to set up your external network. And the three options you have there are a static IP address, DHCP, and PPOE. And depending on the option that you select, you'll have either a screen on the next screen where you would enter information, or with DHCP, it just jumps directly to this next screen, which is adding the status and admin passwords for management. For the DHCP, or sorry, for static and for PPOE, you'll get a screen that will ask you to enter in the relevant information for that. And then when you hit next on that screen, you'd come to this password status or password screen where you can enter those in. Once you do that, you're going to get a summary, and you'll get instructions that you can then look at and follow to add the firewall on the local managed side. So these are the instructions that you would use to connect the firewall physically. So you'll get into the web browser, and we're going to look at that here right now. You'll open up your browser. You'll go to the default IP address, since the device is in a factory default state. You'll go to the default IP address of 10.0.1.1 and then :8080 for the management port. You'll get this login screen. Log in with the default admin account and that default password that is read-write. Once you do that, log in, and you'll get the web setup wizard, and there's options in there for you to select, and you'll want to select cloud managed. And here we're going to just finish this up. You'll click the accept the user license down at the bottom, hit next, and then you're going to basically add the same information that you did inside of WatchGuard Cloud, just so that you can marry the firewall locally into the config that's going to be inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So at this point, we've got, you can add a device, which we've already done. You'd select the I've added my device and I want to continue. You click that and it will go to the next screen for us. Here we'll select the same settings that we did inside of the WatchGuard Cloud configuration inside the portal. So we'll select DHCP in this case. If we selected PPOE or static, again, there would be some dialog boxes for us to configure those settings. This is the one for DHCP on the local side. We will then add a DNS server, and there's an important thing that you need to know here is when you add the DNS server, you want to add a public DNS here so that the firewall is able to go out and talk to WatchGuard Cloud and connect up. If you add just your internal Active Directory DNS server or an internal DNS server that you're using, the firewall probably will not be able to reach out and talk to WatchGuard Cloud. So it's important for you to add that local or that public DNS server. So once you do that, you'll hit add that in, hit the next, and then it will finish up and connect up with WatchGuard Cloud, and the device will show up inside of WatchGuard Cloud. So now let's jump into our WatchGuard Cloud interface. So inside of WatchGuard Cloud, the device has been added. You'll hit configure and you'd select devices, and then we would get this list of the devices that we have added underneath our account. I pushed that over so I had a little bit more area, but you'll see all your devices under your account here for all the ones that you've added. At this point, you can then start doing some administrative tasks. On this default or device settings page, we have just basic information about the device, serial number. We can remove the device from WatchGuard Cloud totally, or we can remove it from cloud management, but still have it inside of WatchGuard Cloud for access. Configuration is really the main area where we're going to end up being. The top section here is where we set our security settings. We would do our content scanning settings here. Our gateway AV, intelligent AV, web blocker. As we go in, we can then specify those settings. Also, we can do network blocking, so we can set our IPS settings here. We can set sites that we want to block specifically, or we can look at blocked ports as well. We can go in and set geolocation information and content filtering. So all of these settings up here should be fairly familiar to you if you've been managing a device locally. The geolocation is very similar to what you're used to. We'll go in and select what countries we want to have in the policy, and we can save those as a config to apply, as well as content filtering for not just web blocker, but application control, so we can select the categories that we want to do there. The thing that's really nice inside of WatchGuard cloud management of the firewall is we set these settings up here in the top globally, and those settings are applied to policies as we get going along creating those policies. We don't have to go and apply them to each of the policies like we did before. If you remember, inside of WatchGuard cloud, or sorry, inside of locally managed firewalls, on any of the proxies that you wanted to enable gateway AV, you had to go in and make sure that you enabled that and then set the parameters. Now we set it once and they get added to those proxy policies automatically. The next area that I want to take a quick look at is networking, because the networking area has changed a little bit. Previously, with locally managed firewalls, the management of those interfaces was really very interface centric. Now, inside of WatchGuard Cloud, the management is more network centric. And what I mean by that is, if you remember locally managed firewalls, if you wanted to have VLANs, you would configure the interface as a VLAN interface. If you wanted to do bridging, you needed to set it as a bridging interface. Now, we just, inside of WatchGuard Cloud, you can select to add a network type, internal or external. You would give it a name, give it an IP address, 24, and then you can select which interfaces you want to have that on automatically. You can have that on the first available one, which in my case is interface 2. I could bridge that over to both of those and save that. So now I've got those two interfaces as a bridge, and I can look at that. Let's say now I want to go back and I want to add a VLAN to that interface. I can come back into that, select VLAN and enable VLAN, give that a VLAN number, and now I've added that as a VLAN interface. Oh, I should have also showed you, I can also either have that interface be untagged, which it currently is, or I can tag it. So on that interface, it's tagged. On this one, I can leave it untagged if I wanted to. As a bridge interface, you'd probably want to have both of those tagged. But as you can see, it's very easy for us to manage networking there. Going back to the policies have also changed in that instead of being protocol centric, policies are now traffic centric. And what I mean by that is previously you could, when you created a policy, you would have to select what kind of protocol you wanted. So you create a policy for HTTP, you create a second policy for HTTPS, one for FTP, and on and on. Now inside of WatchGuard Cloud, you can create a policy such as this one where you have web, FTP, and multiple protocols all at once inside of a single policy. One thing to note is the order of policies has changed just a little bit. You have what are called first run policies, and these are traditional packet filter policies. Last run policies are also packet filter policies. Core policies can include both packet filter and proxy policies together. So core policies give you the ability to have policies that have proxy actions available to them. Real quick, I want to show you the deployment history. Here you can look at what's been deployed in the past. I'm going to revert those changes really quick so you can see something that's really quite neat. Let's say I decided to make a change last night and that change didn't work and I needed to revert back to this policy. I can select that and revert back real quickly. The other thing that's really nice inside of here is you get an audit trail of who's logged into WatchGuard Cloud and made changes, as well as a description of what's happening there. The last thing that I want to quickly talk about is templates. Inside of WatchGuard Cloud, you have the ability to create templates. And the thing that's nice about that is if you have multiple firewalls in your environment, or if you're a service provider and you have multiple customers that have firewalls, you can create a template and apply that template to one or more firewalls, either in a specific customer or across multiple customers. And you can go in and create a policy, and these are items that you can have inside of those templates. You can then go back and make a change and have that change get pushed down to all the devices that have been subscribed to that template automatically. And so if you have devices you want to keep in sync with, say, WebLocker, you would go and add a device template to all the firewalls that you want to have, and make that change, and it would get pushed down to all those devices automatically. So that's kind of a real quick look at what is inside of WatchGuard Cloud for management. We may do another one of these where we do a little bit more of a deep dive into the interface and take a look at a lot more of the configuration. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I will give it back to Wendy.
Fantastic. Great job, Russell. Thank you all for the lively questions during the webinar. And thank you to Johan Blumhardt for supporting this. As you see, this is kind of a new format for us. We're going to be switching every other webinar. We'll be switching between two great speakers, Johan, who you're very familiar with, and Russell, now you're familiar with. So please continue to join us. We will meet again on August 26th. So you can just kind of mark this down on your calendar. Every fourth Thursday of the month, that's when FireBytes will most likely be running, with the exception of a few times during the year when we may have to reschedule around holidays and things of that nature. Again, feel free to take the survey. You can either follow that URL or scan the QR code with your phone and it'll take you right to that survey. 4 quick questions. It does help us out in determining what content you would like us to feature in future webinars. and also be looking in your email. We will be sending out the link to the recording of this webinar so you can review it on our YouTube channel, which is YouTube.com/WatchGuard West, WEST. And lastly, in that same email, we will list the winners from today's webinar for that mini refrigerator, which is perfect for summer, and the Rocket Smart book and WatchGuard socks. Until next month. See you later. Thank you, everyone.